This one gonna go. First home run of the year for the Padres is the first for Xander Bogaerts.
Then follow us on X at 97.3 The Fan SD. It's that time, Prior Faithful. Time to discuss everything going on with the Padres. We've gathered the entire 97.3 The Fan crew together to bring you the most in-depth discussion on the Friars in our weekly Padres Roundtable, presented by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. Here's your host, Ben Higgins.
Still chewing, stuffing my face with Roundtable Pizza in the 5 minutes since we were just off the air. Welcome into another edition of our Padres Roundtable on 97.3 The Fan. We've got mostly a full house today, minus one. But to my left is Chris Ello from the Chris and Gwyn program in the afternoon. Gwyn and Chris.
Hello, otherwise known as Gwyn and Chris.
Yes,
Chris.
well, he's still learning. He's still learning that. I have a question before you introduce everybody.
Don't ask about the shirt.
No, how'd the game end up last night? I turned it off. It was tied, bottom of the ninth, and Jackson Merrill was up. I assume he hit a home run.
It was not over.
Oh, he didn't.
He did not. We've got Craig Elston from the Annie and Elston program. Hi, Craig.
I missed the memo on plain drab today.
They say that when
colorful.
you're together long enough, you start looking like each other.
Spousers. That's what we are.
Wow.
Yeah, Woods and I are twinsies today. We've got Stephen Woods from the Woods and Ben program in the morning.
Only in my dreams, buddy. Only in my dreams. My wildest dreams.
And Annie Heilbrunn always gets top billing with Annie and Elston.
Good morning. Would any of you like to recreate Fernando's post-game celebration?
I'm actually surprised Adam hasn't
Any of
asked
us?
me to do it yet.
No one wants us to, Annie, especially
You would win.
No
You would
one
actually
can
win the
compare.
vote, Andy.
You would
I
win the
hate to
vote,
tell
and
you.
that's, yeah. I think we would all get in quite amount of trouble.
All right, we're going to do some temperature taking this morning on your San Diego Padres. It's been a couple of weeks since our last roundtable, so we're going to just kind of go element by element, starting with pitching. We saw Yu Darvish's return to the rotation last night. Obviously a little off on the command, but pretty confident that he's going to get things going here before too long. How do we feel overall about the Padres starting pitching rotation going into September? Chris?
A plus.
A plus.
Honestly, I don't. I mean, once Darvish gets it back together, which I assume will happen, Musgrove's pitching incredible. Cease and King are confident every time. The fifth spot, maybe not. But look, to me, if the playoffs started today, the way everybody's pitching around baseball, is there somebody you look at and say, they got a better four-man rotation than the Padres? I don't really see it. So I'd give it A+.
All right, A+ is a pretty strong grade. I mean, there's no like guaranteed winner every time out,
No.
Craig, but I guess no team can ever say that you know that this guy's good for a win every time out.
Yeah, you know, at my son's school, they use a different system, and they have mastery, and then they have progress and progress plus. And I would give this rotation progress plus because I think there's absolutely room to be what Chris just
Is
said.
your son mastery?
I mean,
ever?
of like a certain subject.
Oh, good,
Be like,
okay.
yeah, you mastered this one. You mastered 6th grade English,
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever. The potential to be exactly what Chris said is 100% there. The reality is that over the last month plus, this has been the weakest part of the ball club, and part of their amazing comebacks and the DNA of this team's amazing comebacks is falling behind with subpar starting pitching performances. So I'm very excited. I'm very confident. And I'm also keeping a cautious eye out because we're projecting on some guys who haven't shown it yet.
When I was growing up, it was outstanding, satisfactory, or needs improvement. And I definitely think the Padres are beyond satisfactory now in the starting rotation.
Well, you asked originally for temperatures. My temperature is 97.3.
Perfect.
Okay, that's what my temperature is
Wow.
right now.
Company
Get you to the
man.
hospital.
Exactly.
Hypothermia.
No, I agree with. It's like Chris said. When Dylan Cease takes the ball, I feel confident. And when Michael King takes the ball, I feel confident. And when Joe Musgrove takes the ball, I feel confident. And I will feel confident in Yu Darvish. And I'm going to watch Martin Perez throw tonight. He keeps you in the game. I know the last couple of outings have been, whatever. Too many walks. If he commands, the zone, you're in the game. Gives up a couple solo shots, you're right there. So he's done what a fifth starter needs to do. Probably won't see him in the playoffs. My biggest thing is I'm just ready for the regular season to end. I wish the playoffs actually did start tomorrow so we could get it on. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Any letter grade, non-letter grade, temperature, whatever you really want at this point. Padres starting rotation.
I think a solid A. I think, at this time of the season, you're always looking for signs of fatigue, and that would be understandable. And there was a stretch between Joe Musgrove starts recently where no starting pitcher made it past the 5th inning, and the bullpen has been used a lot. But that's kind of understandable at this point in the season, and I feel like they're going to be helped out by these off days that are happening in September and by the coming back of Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove, and also just getting that second win as they approach what will hopefully be a playoff push for them.
All right, from the starting rotation to that bullpen, which, by the way, Padres don't win that game if they don't get 6 shutout innings from their bullpen in the game against the Detroit Tigers. People are very high on it, obviously so. I've got to imagine we all feel the same way about the Padres bullpen. I mean, hard to find anything to complain about there.
I call them the Magnificent Seven, and that's leaving Wandy Peralta out. Hopefully he can join that group. But there's 7 guys that, I'll use Woodsy's phrase, I mean, I'm just confident when they come into the game. I mean, sure, they can give up a run. Matsui is probably the least confident, and I still think can be effective. The Hoying has been a tremendous find. And then everybody knows the other guys. I mean, they're all good, and the Tigers saw all of them last night. I'll say the same thing. I mean, is there a team that you go into the playoffs and go, wow, their bullpen's gonna crush our bullpen? I don't think so. So I like it.
It's
97.4, Ben.
Wait, are we going in? Sorry.
I don't know. I just jumped in.
That's a free for all.
I'll just let you decide amongst yourselves who goes next.
It's
I don't
one of their
always have
best
to
weapons.
pick.
It's one of their best weapons. I mean, we saw it in play last night. Anytime there's a close game, who doesn't feel good about the guys coming out of that bullpen? They used 8 pitchers yesterday. The bullpen kept them in the game, able to come back like that. When they are in close games and they are in the playoffs, if they make it there, that is going to be huge for them.
I saw Dan Plesac, MLB Network, had the Padres ranked as his ¡1 postseason bullpen. Is there a difference, Craig, in your mind between a postseason bullpen and a regular season bullpen? There's definitely a difference in a starting rotation. You can have a shorter starting rotation in the playoffs, but bullpens are kind of bullpens. Maybe you don't need quite as much depth in the postseason as you do in the regular season.
Yeah, I think what Plesac means by that is power arms, because power situations demand power arms. But I thought a couple of the grades in the first round were a little high, so I just want to explain why mine was lower, was to create a differentiator. This is the best bullpen in baseball. This is the best Padres bullpen I've seen in my lifetime, and I think it's one of the best bullpens I've ever seen, period, full stop. It keeps the team in every game. It gives them ability to win a game like yesterday and make it feel almost like a certainty, combined with what we'll talk about next, which is a newly revamped lineup. So this is everything that A.J. Preller dreamed when he mortgaged it on this bullpen. He has been rewarded. It's the best bullpen I've ever seen.
And Woods, I think Craig brings up a good point when he says postseason bullpen, power arms. And by power arms, not just people who throw hard like Robert Suarez, but it's really swing and miss that you're looking for in the playoffs. Because when the season comes down to one game or maybe one inning and it's a tie game, soft contact sometimes is not good enough, because soft contact can be a blooper that ends your year. Ask the New York Yankees and Arizona Diamondbacks and Mariano Rivera how good that can be. Getting swing and miss in the playoffs is essential, and the Padres bullpen gets a lot of it.
They do that, and the ability to get the ground ball when you need it. And Wandy Peralta, for all his struggles, he is that guy. He can get a ground ball when you need it. They can kill you in a bunch of different ways, man. This is not a one-dimensional type scene. They have a lot of guys. Jason Adam he's been unreal. I mean, honestly, and obviously Robert Suarez doing his thing all season long. Again, it's just a confidence that you have, which is why I don't even want to play the next 3 weeks. I just want to get to it right now.
You have to, man.
I have
to win.
And you
every
got to
one
win
of the
them.
weeks.
Yeah, you got to win them.
Are you keeping up with your statistic, Ben, which was outstanding, that the Padres, are they still undefeated with Tanner Scott
They're
pitches?
still undefeated.
What are they up to now?
Manny
I think they're
Machado
now
and
at 18 and 0 now. Anytime he comes into
Well, then
a
let's
game.
use him as an opener from here on out.
And the Manny Machado stat, 23 and 0 when he has
Drives in
RBI.
two
runs.
Oh, yeah?
Yesterday
Or
was
more,
one of
yeah.
the
Good
few
one.
times they actually had a chance to lose one of those games. That both of those were true.
Yep.
And they weren't even winning at that point when Tanner Scott came in or when Manny drove in the 2 runs, but they found a way to pull it out. Now, Annie, in the bullpen, we've seen Mike Schilt already be aggressive during the regular season in deploying that bullpen. When the playoffs come around, assuming the Padres will be there, do you foresee any changes in terms of that aggressive use? Can you get more aggressive is what I'm saying in the postseason.
I think he can. Yeah, good question. I think he's going to play whatever is in front of him, however it needs to be. I think he takes whatever opportunity is there, and I don't think he's going to be afraid. As much as I think he values guys having their roles and being comfortable in their roles, I think he's got the kind of team where if he needs to move guys around or go matchup based or put a starter in the rotation or in the bullpen or whatnot, like, if it means the team wins, they're all on board.
I saw you nodding. What
has a
does
chance.
that aggression look like to you?
Well, you need the buy-in from the guys, number one, and you have guys like Tanner Scott that Schilt probably has to calm down and say, I'm not throwing you today. Like, he wants the ball, wants to be in. It's obviously a very refreshing perspective here in San Diego, one that we were not accustomed to last year.
You referring to anyone?
No, it just, and it's true, but you're going to see Michael King obviously will want the ability to start a playoff game, but he also knows he may be best served in that first series as a long man, and he'll get his chance in the second series. You have to have buy-in from all those guys, and every one of those guys, you get the sense they're beating down his door for the ball, and it's just not something that you've seen a ton. So obviously the makeup's there, the buy-in's there, and I think Schilt can. I think you can absolutely get more aggressive with it, and I don't want to say I was surprised, but when we talked to him last Friday and kind of asked him, hey, here we go. The division's, it's still there. You can still go get it. How tempted are you to give guys a rest and here and there? And he goes, this is why you play. This is why you play. These are the games that you want your best players in. And I liked that. So that to me says, yeah, he's going to be pretty aggressive, like he was last night.
And I thought yesterday, Craig, it was interesting. We've been getting used to the ASS of Adam, Scott, Suarez, but he actually brought in Scott first, and then Adam, and then Suarez, and then Estrada.
Sassy.
A little sassy bullpen action. He talks about those lanes and finding the right matchups. Obviously, they do a lot of thinking about who they want their relievers going up against, because it's not just righties, lefties. They're both right-handers, but why Scott before Adam in the game yesterday? Not sure we know the answer to that.
Oh, no, it was very easy. It's because the Tigers had their key left-handed batters.
Better pitchers. They have more faith in Scott. They wanted him there.
So you just use the lefty against the lefties and you use the righty against the righties, and that's what you do when you have a dominant bullpen, when you've gone beyond ego, when you've gone beyond contractual demand to everybody recognizes this is a team that can win the World Series. To win the World Series, you have to win the first series. To win the first series, you have to win 2 out of 3. So everybody's got to be absolutely in sync. And so I couldn't agree more. The only question I would have in terms, and it's a different topic in terms of the King versus Darvish.
Who will it be?
Because if Darvish starts, I think King relieves that game
Immediately.
100% in the playoffs, but maybe King should start that game because he's been so good. But that's a different topic for a different day. The point is, this team now has the ability, we'll get to it, I'm sure, on offense, to be incredibly aggressive in a postseason scenario.
And you're right. The next topic is that lineup. It is our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, presented commercial-free by Roundtable Pizza. It's pizza royalty. And we almost saw the lineup at its kind of full-strength potential. Ha-Seong Kim still a few days away probably from returning. But why don't we start with Annie on the other side this time? Temperature on the Padres lineup now that we're starting to see what it may look like in the postseason.
I firmly give it an A. I look, they deepened it, they lengthened it. I mean, look at what happened last night. They walk a rise. You could question that, but you understand it also on the Tigers side. But at the same time, who are you going to get to when you move past a player or a guy in the lineup, to the next guy? Well, he's just as dominant. And the next guy, he's just as dominant. It's very hard to find a hole in that lineup. And when they are all feeling it and, playing at that level, I think it's puts so much pressure on a pitcher.
Woods, the lineup does have a couple of holes right now at the bottom. I mean, we saw Mike Schilt aggressively using his bench, talking about the 8th and 9th slots, but I think when you look around the league, you're not going to find too many teams that don't have at least an 8 and 9 hitter that you probably don't necessarily want up in a key situation late in the game.
Well, and the difference in this team and other teams of the past that we've covered and watched is that, let's say you are in a 1-0 game and you do get to those holes at the bottom of your lineup. Look what you have coming off the bench now that you didn't have before, which is just Solano, Peralta, Tyler Wade to get a bunt down, whatever it may be. I like, Campusano is probably his own segment. We could probably do 10 minutes on that. But, it's so deep right now. And, again, we talked, we can talk lineup construction. Where should Merrill hit? I don't know, man. It's working pretty well right now. And he keeps coming up in that time of the lineup where he continues to help us and get big hits. So I'm reluctant to change much about it, other than maybe getting Elias Diaz behind the dish and let him get his feet a little bit more wet than last night. Get Campy out of there for a minute and see what happens. But yeah, man, it's certainly a deep team.
Yeah, Craig, after one day of Fernando Tatis, I thought, well, maybe they need to put him deeper in the order so they can get back going. And then he hits every ball a million miles an hour last night. And I go, no, he probably should be batting second in this lineup.
There's 7 elite players now in this lineup. 7 guys that you're willing to bat in the top 3 of your order in this lineup.
Yeah.
And that leads you to circumstances where in those middle innings, when you're cycling away from your top 3, you've got Cronenworth, Bogarts, and Merrill coming up. I mean, that's so exciting. And then, building off what you said, it's now an 8-man lineup because after the first time through, that 8 spot can become David Peralta. It can become Donovan Solano. I do think, hopefully, Padres fans and some folks are seeing the value of Ha-Sung Kim as he is out, because clearly the Tigers were working to get to McCoy in runners in scoring position situations yesterday, and it didn't work out for the team. Kim, not that he's going to come through every time, but he gives you a great eye and a power bat a little bit down there and lockdown defense, and then you're just going to have a perpetual machine of 9 in a row.
I was actually surprised that Solano got as many pitches to hit in that at-bat that he did. I mean, he usually doesn't miss those.
Yeah.
And he did work the walk.
He still walked.
He still walked. Yeah, but I was like, well, why would you throw him anything here at all with McCoy on deck? And so that's, we kicked that around on our show today, the strategy. And I love what Schilt said. He's like, it's not an easy call. I had to kind of make that call, snap judgment. And Solano, you have the chance to get 2 RBI right there. He can easily poke one in the gap easily. I mean, he's one of the best pinch hitters in the game. So I like the aggressive move. Didn't work out in that case, but those are the opportunities and the options that Mike Schilt has right now at his disposal, which is great.
Chris, Padres lineup above or below 97.3 degrees?
It's probably above. There's a couple things that you guys mentioned everything, but I think one of the things that makes it perfect in Mike Schilt's mind is that it goes left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, right. I think there's 2 rights at the bottom.
Well, don't forget the switch in the third spot.
And the third, but I mean, that's something that Mike Schilt has probably dreamed his whole life of managing, right?
Every single manager.
It is really incredible that they can do that.
They're all righties.
Right. The other thing is the 8-9 spot, be careful how weak you say it is.
Sure.
Their 2 catchers have combined for 20 home runs and 83 RBIs.
It's crazy.
And we think Campusano stinks. He's got 40 RBIs. And he's not having a very good year. Higashioka's got 43 RBIs. So,
and 16 bombs.
Right. So those 2 guys are dangerous enough down there. And yes, Craig, I will allow that they'll be better when Kim comes back. But I do want to say that McCoy has not hurt this team at all. I think he's done everything that's been asked of him. I was a little surprised they didn't try the suicide squeeze with him last night, because why not? Everything else has been working, and I thought that they might lay one down there.
Force play, but,
True enough, but to me, you get a good enough bunt, it's going to still take a great play.
All right, I'll throw the rest into one bucket. Defense, speed, bench, intangibles. I mean, there's very little to poke holes at right now on this Padres team.
The intangibles we've been talking about quite a bit.
Through the roof.
Right. I mean, the comeback wins, the extra inning wins, the late close wins, the style that they've got. You talked about a bullpen that, gets other teams to swing and miss. Well, the Padres swing and miss the least in baseball. This is almost too good to be true right now.
I agree.
I'm gonna leave it there.
I mean, honestly, I'm a skeptic. I'm hard to bring across the line. I can't remember a team in my life that I've believed in more than this team. Like this grouping you're talking about, intangibles, all-time high. What other team have you ever seen? Guys coming back, striking out, talking to the next guy, saying, let's do that. Every single thing, everything, top to bottom. Mike Schilt, manager of the year.
Got pulled out of the game for a pinch hitter in a huge spot. I mean, went right in.
Elias Diaz had a
and
catch.
went right in and told Elias Diaz what to do.
Yeah.
I think every other player would have gone to the tunnel and been in street clothes.
Bench. Best bench I've ever seen in San Diego. Now, Peralta and Solano and your catcher coming off. Wade is there to do anything that you need. Management. I mean, this has been the best constructed roster, and this team is all together pulling the same direction.
And they've even corrected some of the issues. The base running has gotten better as the
That's because
season.
Hassan Kim's been out of the lineup.
Gone on. It really is hard to poke holes.
It is, the confidence that they inspire on a nightly basis, the ability to be able to not start your pacing and your dooming in the third, fourth, fifth inning, and we all have it in us, I know, but just the ability to know that they're going to find different ways, and really the cool thing is it's been different players. We talked about all the guys that have had the walk-offs, and just everybody is stepping up and buying in. And you're in September, so you have the feeling that anything can happen. It's baseball, but it's not going to be from a lack of execution or drive or want to or buy-in or chemistry. We're good. Nothing's going to crumble this clubhouse on September 3rd or whatever. It's just not going to happen. They've weathered that storm, and now you can see they haven't lost a game in September yet. They're ready to go. The page has been turned, and they know what's ahead of them, and it's massively cool and refreshing to watch.
And now with Tatis back, Annie, the defense takes a big step up as well.
How about that play last night? Yeah. That is a triple. If anybody else is out and right,
everybody.
I mean, it's a gutsy play, and it took huge stones to do it. But if anybody's going to do it, it's him. And then he makes that jump throw and almost gets Carpenter at second base from right field. It's insane.
Yeah, it's a huge presence. I mean, not only is he executing, but it's just knowing that these guys on defense are so good and they will come through. And then the base running too. I mean, look, there were some blunders and whatnot early on, but you see that phrase, one of Schultz's many phrases, championship players do and think for themselves. And you see now, whereas they get into what will be a lot of pressure-filled situations, these players feel good about making decisions and going for things and working, whatever is they see in front of them, working at whatever opportunity they see in front of them. And so you see some of these things just really come into fruition in a way that will really help them in this next stretch.
Well, and I think the freedom to be themselves and play their game is great, and takes a lot of the shackles off those guys when they get to the ballpark. They know that they can go play their game. Luis Ariz, should you be more selective? No, just go be you. And Fernando, go be you. And Manny, be you. Acceptance from Mike Schilt about the kind of players he has. Jerks and Profar, go be you, man. Some of the things that they've done have driven me nuts this year. Nuts. But they have the ability and the trust of their skipper and each other to know that they're playing for the team instead of themselves. And it's so, like I said, it's cool and refreshing.
And I just want to tack one thing onto that, because last night's game, for me, was a really important game. Not for me personally, but just I viewed it as a really important game, because if there was one thing I was still kind of back of the mind concerned about, it was the Ewing theory for this team. The old classic Patrick Ewing theory that you take Ewing off the Knicks and all of a sudden everybody is playing a little bit harder and they find their role a little bit easier. But then when you put them back in, then there's kind of
they relax a little bit.
That look around. And last night had some of those hallmarks of the team loading the bases and not getting the runs in. But it was Nando who came through.
Yeah.
His first ever walk-off. The guy that we're looking at, our Ewing, that just got put back in. And I thought that was gigantic, not just for the win-loss column, but for the psyche of the team. We can do it as a full unit.
I just wanted to ask, I'm new to this show, is this the same group that was here in April and May? Are we the same people?
No,
Or do they
wholesale changes. were
Oh,
made.
okay. Because, it's really.
That group was too negative and pessimistic.
Yes,
They
that
replaced
is.
them.
We are talking. It's the same team we were talking about then.
Not really.
Not really. But you know what I mean.
Not really.
It isn't. We're not. I don't think anybody who's tuned in and saying, "Boy, these guys are the ultimate homers." This is obviously the Padres station, so they're going to talk great. No, we really haven't been talking like this all year.
No.
But I just.
They've earned
It's
it.
almost impossible not
They
to
have
talk like
earned
this now.
level of discussion.
Yeah.
It's not projection. It's not hopeful thinking. They've earned it. Now, with that in mind, it's our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable presented by Roundtable Pizza. It's pizza royalty. Just to just tamp down the brakes for a second. The next question is, if you can think of anything, this might be the hardest question of the day. What's your biggest remaining concern about the 2024 Padres? Annie, you're ready to go.
I think just because I agree, they've earned the benefit of the doubt. It's hard to poke holes. I think just the progression of a long season. Would any kind of fatigue come into play? Would any kind of body kind of breaking down maybe come into play? I think just never knowing kind of look, they've played so many games and so many intense games and so good because it's built them up for any kind of scenario that they might see in the future. But they've also put a lot of mileage on themselves, you know what I mean? In a lot of intense situations. And so that's the only thing that I think I wonder about, because you have all these other teams still, the Diamondbacks, even the Mets, the Braves, the Dodgers, that are all playing at this same level or close to it. You got to keep pushing at this same, fierceness.
Health. It's just health. The health of the players. I feel like, again, if you're one of those guys, we've talked to enough big leaguers to know that if you're in this position in September, man, you're so excited to get up and you're so excited to go to the ballpark and you're so excited to go play because things are going well. Obviously you want that to continue, but the only thing that could derail you is injury. So I that's the thing that maybe keeps me up a little bit at night and that I'm concerned about is health. And I think that there's no fan of any baseball team that's in the mix right now that isn't terrified about the health of their team.
I mean, the number one concern is the margin, because you have 4 teams that are completely playoff worthy, and one of them is going to be left out.
Yep.
In between the Padres, the Braves, the Diamondbacks, and the Mets. But to me, this is actually the easiest answer. It's the starting rotation, obviously, in my mind, because you just saw Darvish go out there and not be himself. We all hope he's going to be better the next start. Joe Musgrove has pitched for 5 games like an absolute Cy Young Award winner, while Dylan Cease for the last several games has not. And you've got King over his innings limit. This team has made a habit of coming from behind, again, because they've often been put behind by the rotation. So if there's one thing I'm worried about, it's just seeing those guys' performance lock in to that October level that we expect.
Well, and you want a little bit more normalcy for some of their starts, the delays, it's just been weird. Like the 18 and 18 was weird. It was a lot. They were overtaxed. The bullpen, it was just, I think it settles down. You get a lot more off days, baked in, and they're able to extend the rotational, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a little bit more normalcy than it was in August. I still am confident when King has the ball, and I'm still confident when Cease has the ball. He had those great innings, and then he came out and inexplicably threw 10 balls in a row. Probably only threw 8 balls, and then I think he got squeezed in a couple. But it's just like, those are the ones where you're like, all right, now this makes me insane, because you were so locked in that game. And I'm still just remarkably confident in the rotation, because I think they're going to be able to manipulate it to get guys rest, to keep them, but also keep them sharp, which is a tough thing to do. Ask Dave Roberts that every year. Every year.
Chris, you're usually able to manufacture at least a little bit of concern.
Negativity.
Yeah.
Well, Jerks and Profar, the guy who has been the only one who hasn't been in the negative column.
Yeah.
The first 3 months of the season has hit the wall. I really am rooting for his magical season to end magically, and I still think, when he comes up like he did last night, tying runs, second and third, crowd's electric, Fernando just hits a ground rule double. Early in the season, Profar would have driven one against the fence, and it would have been a tie game. Last night, he popped up. I hope he's just going through baseball. It's just giving him one of those stretches. So I'm a little concerned, but, if Profar went 0 for the rest of the year, he would still be a major reason why this team got where they are, because he was so good for so long. But the only other concern I have, Ben, is baseball. And we've all been around this too long. when we sat here around the All-Star break, none of us could foresee a 19-3 stretch to start the second half. And as we sit here right now, none of us can foresee them losing 8 of their next 10 games.
3-19.
And slipping into a tie with the Mets with 2 weeks to go.
But it could happen.
Baseball always scares me.
Yep.
I think you've got to just respect it at all times.
Yes.
Don't get cocky.
Don't look past it.
Don't
because
do any videos.
Baseball can hit you in the face if you pause.
No
So-
rapping, no nothing.
Right.
No
That's
nothing.
the only
No,
thing.
nothing.
Honestly.
KUSI, we're talking to you.
Nothing.
The irony
Morning show booker,
is,
quit it.
Yes.
As a San Diego sports fan, we've often rested our hopes on the fact that in baseball, the best team doesn't always win, especially in a short series.
100%.
And now you're kind of wishing that the best team did
Yes,
win in
right.
a short
We
series.
feel like
because
we have the
you
best
feel like
team.
you have the best team going into a lot of these matchups that they're going to have. Craig, you kind of took mine. The slow starts still seem to be an issue. They come back from them so often. They're not, but you'd like to not fall behind 3-0 and 5-0 and 2-0 in a lot of games. That tends to happen. I'll throw one more. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But there's not a ton of playoff experience. You know, some guys had, in the run in 2022 that were with the team, but there's a lot of guys, whether you're rookies or you've come from other organizations or you just haven't been in the playoffs a lot in this organization, that you wonder how people are going to respond when it comes to October.
The Dodgers have way more playoff experience. Fortunately for us, most of that is negative.
Right.
So
Losing experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one doesn't really worry me. I'm just thinking through the lineup. I mean, Tatis, but he's been through 2 playoffs. Machado has been, to the World Series.
For the amount that he's been in his career, though, it hasn't been a ton.
Yeah, I think this group has a core. That core has been, for the large part, would be going to their 3rd playoff in 5 years. I'm not too worried. Higashioka was with the Yankees, for God's sakes. They're in the playoffs every year. I'm not worried about it.
I've got a couple of specifics, since we have the generals seem to be taken care of well. I've got some specific player questions to discuss. And we're going to start with, yet to get a start. We did finally see him getting into a game. Do you foresee an important role for Elias Diaz at all down the stretch for the San Diego Padres, or will he remain just the 3rd catcher for the Padres and used in those kind of games like yesterday?
I foresee a very significant role for Elias Diaz. I think last night was Luis Campusano's last start of the year. I don't see any viable way that you can put Campusano on the field in a must-win game when he is giving up 2 to 4 base runner advances per game on balls in the dirt, balls off his glove, balls that rattle in the middle of his glove and squirt off to the on-deck circle. He has completely regressed defensively to the point that I wouldn't trust him in any sense. I think Higashioka is clearly this team's 1, and I expect in the next 3 weeks for Elias Diaz to show that he is clearly this team's 2, and then I expect them to timeshare in the playoffs.
I don't disagree with Craig necessarily, although I think Mike Schilt probably values the relationships that Luis Campusano has built with a pitching staff that Elias Diaz doesn't have yet, so I don't expect him to go away completely. But, Woods, I do think we're going to see Diaz get some starts on days when Higgy's not behind the plate.
No question. I mean, that's why you brought him in. Elite glove, elite ability to throw out base runners and run prevention in the playoffs. That's what you want. I mean, you got to have it. And, it's a bummer about Campy, knowing kind of what he's gone through and what he's overcome. It's tough to watch, when the ball clanks off the mitt, and a guy advances. That guy didn't score when it happened later in the game, but the block that he kind of missed early, that came back to bite you. And it can't happen, man. It ain't show friends, it's show business. And that's the tough part is these are human beings, and it's really, really hard. And the guy's worked his ass off to get back. But he's had opportunities. It's not like he hasn't had opportunities. And, I hope the best for him, certainly. And is he, like Chris said, does he have the ability to come off the bench and deliver a big hit? Absolutely. Still kind of a scary-looking dude when he's up there with a bat in his hand. Still looks really hitterish to me. And so, I think there's a spot for him, but I don't think it's starting behind the dish.
And you've seen Luis Campusano's kind of progression, and they've always been so high on him. Is there any disappointment there, do you think?
Especially the front office. I don't know disappointment. I'm with you. I empathize with him.
Me too.
He has worked hard. He cares. he wants to do well for this team, and there was a lot of expectation for him this year. It has got to be very difficult if you are looking at another catcher coming into your organization. I hope that because they are big on communication, I hope that they're talking to him. I hope that they are explaining. And I understand this is not, you can't like hold hands. They're in a playoff push. They want to win games and whatever. However, you probably will need them all at some point. You really don't know exactly what you have with Elias Diaz. I agree. Mike Schultz is a fundamentally sound guy. He does not want to give up things like pass balls or not being able to throw a runner out or whatnot. I don't know. This is a hard one for me.
Luckily, we have the one person in San Diego who has paid any attention to the Rockies ever. We're not sitting right next to me. What do the Padres have in Elias Diaz? Why did they let him go?
Well, from what I understand, honestly, it's because his defense has slipped. So I think he is an elite defender who's not an elite defender anymore. His bat has slipped considerably from last year. I felt the same thing, though. When that ball clanged off Campusano's glove, and then he got pinch hit for right after that. I felt like that was the message that this is the end. But I don't think it's the end. And I think Mike Schultz is smart enough to know that there's a little bit of a jewel there in Campusano that may still show up. There's 4 weeks left. I don't think he buries him for the rest of the season, but I understand the thinking. So I think we'll see Elias Diaz a little bit. He'll make a few starts. But I'm not ready to give up on Campusano, but it was tough to see last night.
The other player that I wanted to ask about is actually not even on the roster right now, but I wonder if he should be and will be in the postseason, and that is Sean Reynolds. Is there a spot, Craig, in the bullpen for Sean Reynolds, given how deep it already is? But you look at some of those metrics and what he has done since he came up, and you wonder maybe he should be with this team.
Trying to
count. Yeah.
It would be for Peralta?
Yeah, it would be a
It
tough
might
choice.
be after Peralta. They could have him as a ninth reliever and not carry Vasquez.
The playoffs, yeah.
That's true.
Like that.
Okay, that's true. You could not carry Perez in the first round, and at that point, I would be all for having Sean Reynolds as the ninth reliever. But you couldn't. I think you probably can't in the first year of a 4-year deal.
Can't get rid of Peralta.
Keep Wandy off.
Eat it now.
Yeah.
So
That's how good the team is that he would be the ninth reliever, Ben.
He is a scary pitcher.
Not bad.
He is a scary.
Like
Not
one
bad.
of the gnarliest.
Very menacing.
Yeah, one of the you put yourself at the plate and you're like, nuh-uh, forget it. No chance. Like, he is nasty. He's menacing. He is swing and miss stuff, which again, so massively important in the playoffs. He also has that look about him that he's like, I'm a psychopath and I will strike you out or I will scare the pants off of you. Like, I love Sean Reynolds. Had good feedback about him from Skip Schumacher, who had him and said, you guys are going to absolutely love this guy once he can harness it a little bit. He's a stud.
Every once in a while, I just have, and I do this with Annie all the time, I just have to stop and point out that the first time this year the Padres had an 8th inning, they pitched Stephen Kolek, and the second time they pitched Johnny Brito.
Yes.
So, like,
remember
how
that?
far we've come.
Remember that?
Where our second best reliever was Johnny Brito. To now he's like number 16 on the list.
Yeah, Johnny Brito was your high leverage 8th inning guy early. And again, we were on the air talking about, well, you got to figure out what everybody's role is. And I asked Ruben Niebla the same question. How do you know? He goes, what did he tell me? He's like, it's about 2 months. And then you kind of know where guys slot in, and kind of knew early on Johnny Brito was not going to be your 8th inning guy for much longer.
I do think that this is where, though, what you were talking about with playoff experience will come. There will be discussions of like, what will a guy who has maybe never even pitched in a ton of intense situations, like, there's going to be those discussions. Who can we put out there?
Who's got the makeup?
I think the when you brought up what they could do with the playoff rotation is fascinating, because Martin Perez pitched in a World Series last year.
Yeah.
He actually has recent experience, yet the cold reality of baseball is that you don't need Martin Perez. You wouldn't be here without him right now. You may not even be in a playoff position at this point. You may have lost 3 or 4 more games without him, and you'd be fighting for a playoff spot. Yet when the season ends, it may be a handshake and go, thank you, Martine, but we really have no use for you in the playoffs.
It will be because you have Musgrove, Darvish, King, and Cease.
Yep.
And those are your 4 playoff starters, period, end of story, unless someone gets hurt. Perez will be there in case someone gets hurt. And he'll be there in the dugout every day. And just like Matt Waldron, he's one of those guys that picked up the baton when it was needed at the right time and delivered exactly what this organization
Matt Waldron,
needed.
too. I mean, there doesn't seem to be an avenue to even get him back on the team unless, of course, there are injuries. And even if there was an injury, you wonder whether a bullpen day might be a stronger option in the playoffs than giving 4 innings or 5 innings to Perez or Waldron.
Of course it would be.
Yeah.
Right.
We could give all 9 guys in the bullpen 1 inning.
Yeah.
I think we'd be pretty happy
They
with
won
that.
a playoff game against Mike Schilt doing that.
They sure did. Probably drove Schulte
Right.
crazy, man.
Craig
Shout
Stammen
out
was
Craig
the starter.
Stammen.
Yeah,
That's
Craig
right.
Stammen. That's right.
All right, it's our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable presented by Roundtable Pizza. It's pizza royalty. Says so right behind me. Let's do our 7th inning stretch here. You saw last night our friend Welsh Fryer. You probably have seen his story. He was in studio with us. Had pretty good seats there right between the Padres dugout and that first row. My question is, assuming you don't have the owner's box seats right there, where's your favorite place to sit to watch a Major League Baseball game as a fan?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I sat on the wall that one time against the Dodgers, and Mookie Betts came up and robbed a home run right in front of me. Sitting on the wall out there was one of the coolest.
Like in the Adirondack chairs out
yes,
there?
in the Adirondack chairs, tray right, like a shelf right in front of you. I was like, this is absolutely an elite way to watch a baseball game. It was incredible. I've sat in the home plate club, second to none. That's mostly for the snacks and stuff. But you can. It's also cool down there because you can hear the pitches. Like you can hear it. It's bananas. So either one of those, you cannot lose.
Annie, where do you like to sit?
If you're not in the Gucci seats, I think that you are like next to the dugout. I think is really cool. You can
really
hear
cool.
the conversations. You can kind of see what's going on inside the dugout, right? But I'm with you. I sat out at right field last year for a story watching Tatis, and it was fun. It was a great crew out there, and you get to see the game in a whole different way. It's entertaining. The outfielders are entertaining.
Yeah, they are.
Great.
Yeah, you know, when I was growing up, I was always in the outfield bleachers. That's
I was out there with you.
yeah, I mean that's where I was all the time, and I loved it out there. My current seats are in the upper deck, but down, with the perfect view of the third base line, and just like in the press box, I always like having that one line where you've got fair and foul locked down.
Yeah.
And
This
you
one is mine.
Yeah, and you
I've
just
got it.
know, you see the spin, you're like, nope, that one's going foul. I
Yep.
know it because
Yep.
I can see it. So I'm happy with any of those. I'm fine with a lot of upper deck views, but I think personally in baseball, the closer, lower you get, usually it actually distorts. I think second deck is where you get the best perspective of whether a ball's going to go or not.
Toyota Terrace is pretty sick.
There's
to
a
watch
reason
game.
why they charge so much for the Toyota Terrace. It's not just the the waiter service. It's also a really great perspective at
Yeah.
just about that level. Just either right behind home plate or just off home plate is a great place to watch.
You ever had your feet up on the dugout? That's a good one. I've only done it once, and I did it in Texas. And
The usher come down and
my feet were up, literally up on the dugout. You got your beer up there. I mean, it's also really cool.
I was
spot.
at a concert at Petco Park Friday night.
Journey?
And, Journey concert, and one of the patrons put their beer on top of the dugout, and the usher came rushing down to
Wow.
have them remove the beer from the top of the dugout.
What
They
kind
did
of
not want it
world
there?
do we live in when you can't put your beer on the
No,
dugout at
they
a
did not
Journey
want
and
that.
Def Leppard show in
Got
the
it.
year
Where
2024?
do you want me to put my beer, pal?
Ridiculous. How was that show, by the way?
Quite good.
My wife went, said she had a blast.
Quite good. They were all really excellent, better than I thought all of them would be. I just want to arrogantly answer your question because I got to cover the Lakers for 2 years for the newspaper up in L.A. when they had Magic and Kareem. And with that came the ability to sit on the floor every night.
Holy cow.
And I don't think anything will ever beat that in my lifetime.
Sure.
The first 5 games I covered, I forgot to write my story. I was just so enamored with watching these guys.
This was really cool. I had such a great time.
They were
Lakers
right
win.
there.
You had a table in front of you, though. When I was growing up, my grandfather, the team
Yes,
doctor,
you were the
I
best,
sat with the
right?
actual
Yeah.
feet on the forum.
Yeah,
Old
it's
Topper.
hardwood. It was
Topper Higgins.
incredible.
I guess my point here is if you ever want to totally splurge and you want a front row ticket to a sporting event,
Basketball.
make it an NBA game.
Yeah.
You'll never
the
forget
court.
that experience. there's just I don't know what to say. You know, you're so close to them, and they're so good.
I have a nostalgia. Growing up at Jack Murphy, we used to sit behind first base, just like 3 or 4 rows behind the dugout. I did love it there because you always got to see the action coming towards you, like on the ground balls, on see how the third baseman, the shortstop are playing, and then when the inning's over, the team would all walk towards you in the dugout, and you'd see them as they're coming in, and it was a really fun way to watch baseball growing up. One of the things I absolutely loved. All right, let's move on to some bigger National League picture issues here in our last few minutes. Greg mentioned it earlier. There are a lot of not just hot teams, red hot teams in the National League right now. So, Craig, why don't you start us off here? How do you kind of see these last 3+ weeks playing out in the wild card and division races in the National League? As you said, someone who's playing really well and is a good team is going to get left out.
I'm not going to lie, Ben. I'm going to look at it as an all-out sprint. And I think the team that stumbles falls. And it's going to be that simple. I can't believe I'm saying this, and I want to harken back to some of those past shows where it was like, well, 81 wins, and we might still make the playoffs.
God, right?
Hey, big deal, no problem. 90 wins might not make the playoffs in the National League this year. That sounds insane, but somebody's got to start losing, and the Diamondbacks are loaded for bear. And honestly, the Mets, I've watched them a good deal. They're a red-hot team.
Terrifying.
Like, they're a red-hot team. The Braves, I don't know how, except that they've got great pitching. And great pitching is also deadly in October. So it's wild that one of these teams will miss the playoffs. And I don't believe the Cubs or the Cardinals or any other team has a ghost of a chance.
Yeah.
I think these 4 teams are going to be in an all-out sprint. If you remember the end of the gold medal 1,500-meter race, where 4 guys are just busting their ass, tired as can be, that's what it's going to be, these 4 teams down the stretch.
I will throw out the math for you. I did it in my head this morning on the drive in. If the Padres go 500 from this point on, they're 19 games above 500, so they have 1 game. Let's say they sweep the White Sox and go 500 the rest of the season. That would get them to 92 wins.
Should be
I
enough.
hope that's enough.
Should
but
be
that,
enough.
500 right now, you're losing a lot of ground playing 500 baseball to every other team in the National League. 500 doesn't feel like it's going to get it done.
It's not going to keep up with the Dodgers, but it's going to get you in. I think the Mets are going to fall by the wayside. I'm looking at their rotation. Tyler McGill last night. Jose Quintana is still in that rotation. Kodai Singh is coming back. They're going with David Peterson, who's pitching out of his mind.
He's out of his mind.
Out of his mind. Sean Manaea has been
Out of
way
his mind.
better than we thought.
Yeah.
I think if any team is going to hit a wall with 3 weeks to go, to be the Mets, because I think one of these teams is going to fall by the wayside, as you said. So I do think the 92 that the Padres get will be enough. I'm really hoping it'll be enough so that we get the first-round series here.
100%.
The 3 games, I want it to be in San Diego. I want these fans to get to experience it. The format is a little weird to me. I understand because of the time crunch. They don't have time to travel. But for your team to make the playoffs and potentially not get a playoff game at home is frustrating to me based on what this fan base has seen all year. They deserve some postseason baseball here, and I hope that the Padres are good enough to get at least the 4 spot.
Well, the good news is it's in your hands. Yeah, not your hands, but in their hands.
It's in your hands, Chris, so get to
it's
it.
in your hands. So don't
Well,
let
then
us,
I've deemed it so.
don't let us down, right? But like Ben said the other day, so far where you are right now, your scoreboard watching, sure, but you're not going, oh, God, please lose. Like, we have to have your help to
We have
get
a little
in.
room right now, but not a ton.
Not a ton.
Not
but
a ton.
You handle business, you have no issues. None.
Yeah, this whole time I've been thinking, since they got on this great stretch out of the All-Star break, all these teams, that there was gonna be some parity. There was gonna be some 3 games up, 3 games down, teams flip-flopping over each other a lot. And I was wrong. So at this point, I don't know. I think if you're locked in a playoff spot, which the Padres are, they're in a much better spot than anybody looking in.
No doubt.
But at the same time, I just have a hard time knowing baseball is baseball, thinking it's just going to stay like this the rest of the way out. So I don't know.
I said Braves a couple of months ago when we did this.
Yeah,
around the
you almost
All-Star-
hit it. You
our
might still
All-Star
get it.
break. They might still be the one. Their pitching has continued to be good. If I'm the Braves, though, I'm going like, hey, if we can just survive a little bit more, Albies, we can get some of our injured guys back. I mean, and they could be very dangerous if they get to the postseason.
Well, yeah,
the one team
they're
no
1-0. They're 1-0 with Chris Sale. I mean, you're pretty much 1-0 when you start a playoff series with the way that guy's pitched this year.
The one team no one has talked about on anywhere is the Brewers because we don't believe in the Brewers.
No, but you should.
But remember,
You're
they're
100%
locked
right.
into the playoffs. They're not going. They're going to be in.
Yeah.
And they've been playing terrific ball.
Yep.
They lost their last two. I wanted to ask. So
did they?
Who do you think?
I didn't even notice.
Yeah,
They've been
they
so hot.
actually Cardinals got him and had 12 innings, I think. But so they're now 3 back of the Dodgers. Phillies are half a game back of the Dodgers. How do you guys see the race for the 2 buys playing out? Also, the rest.
Who
of
do
the
you
National
want to
League?
get the top spot if
Yeah.
you're the Padres? Because remember, if you're in the 4-5, there's no reseed. So 4-5 winner plays the top seed. So do you want the Dodgers? You want the Phillies? Pick your poison. I don't care who
I still
wins
would
that.
take the Brewers if they could. Somehow
Yes, if the
catch them
Brewers
both,
could
but
find
yeah.
a way in, that would be cool. I guess I'd rather play the Dodgers, man. We have a little bit of a history on our side there, as opposed to history on the Phillies side if it goes the other way. So I'll root for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad you brought up the potential of Milwaukee getting one of the top 2 seeds because I think it's the single most under-discussed thing in the National League in the second half is how well the Brewers are playing and how well Churio is doing as well. But I still believe that in the end, LA will be the top seed, Philadelphia will be the second seed, and the third seed will be Milwaukee, and I think that they will all win well over 95 games.
It's probably a conversation for later in the season, Woods, but you also will have to start to think, as you said, you might want the Dodgers in the second round. That's the 5-game series in the division series. Or would you rather play, the 7-game series against the team that you're more confident against with more games, how that's going to play out? Because ultimately you want to go all the way, not just, just get to the NLCS. You want to win the NLCS and get to the World Series and win that too.
Well, that's right. And so this is the point where I say I think this team can beat any team in the bracket on the road.
No doubt.
And because of that, it doesn't matter. As long as our team takes care of their P's and Q's, they can match up with anyone.
I mean, I obviously I want playoff games here so bad, but if the first round ended up somewhere else, that just means the opportunity for us to score first and to keep them from putting 2 on the board. I'm big fan of first licks, big fan of Arise, Tatis, Profar, or Arise, Tatis, Machado, whatever you want to do. Big fan of that going against Zach Gallen or anybody, whoever, who doesn't matter. Those guys with an opportunity to score in the first inning, forget it.
Yeah, as cliche as it sounds, I mean, I really believe no one wants to face these Padres. The way that
No.
they're playing right now, they have so many ways to beat you and so many ways to hold you down. If they keep going at some rate of this, they're just a team that I don't think anyone's going to want to meet.
I mean, I could point out Padres lost 5 of 6 to the Phillies and have won 7 of 10 against the Dodgers, and I think won 4 of 7 against the Brewers.
Means nothing.
I don't
though.
know that those
It
are the
just-
same teams at all
No,
that that they would be
doesn't
facing
matter.
in
It doesn't
How many did
matter.
they lose to the Dodgers 2 years ago?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, just wipe it out, man, when the clock turns to October.
There is a scary shoe is on the other foot aspect of facing the Dodgers.
Oh,
that,
yeah.
Oh, you owned us in the regular season, but we get to face you in a 5-game series.
Bring
now?
'em on.
Good for us.
Yep.
Bring them
we
on.
don't want to have to face you, but we will do it in a shorter series.
You have to rather face the Dodgers. Their starting pitching's nowhere near.
I'd rather get them in a
intimidating.
7-game series because they don't have the depth of starting
Well.
pitching. I mean, you kind of want to face the Dodgers in the 7-game series. Let's
just get to the playoffs. Let's settle down.
Yeah, we're getting
settle down. Already.
We're getting way out.
Plotting our
We
playoff
don't
rotation.
get to pick, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I did say it's probably a discussion.
When
for
we have 2
a
minutes left.
future day.
Who do I
Please.
want to face in the World Series? Why, don't we
But
go
why
there?
not? Just go all the way. Give me the Royals.
No,
Yeah, the Royals.
You'll take the Royals in the World Series.
100%.
Waka showdown.
Yeah, and Lugo just dominate.
Fox executives jumping out windows.
It'll be the long I-70 World Series.
You have never
Royals.
seen. They will do everything in their power to make that not happen. The
Fox
ball.
execs are just like, well, it is an election year. I guess we'll get some ads.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that would be tough.
I think the only thing worse might be Kansas City, Milwaukee to totally regionalize it as well, which is it's a World Series that absolutely could happen this year.
Yes.
And then they're, of course, cheering, no doubt, 100% for Yankees-Dodgers.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Or Dodgers-Mets is like the secondary possibility to that.
We have 1 minute left. Do you want to ask us where the parade should be?
No.
Since we're going completely bonkers here.
That's more of an October 17th roundtable question.
Okay.
Hopefully, when we're still doing
If we're
this
still doing the roundtable on October 17th.
in the postseason. We asked Adam today, so is there a postseason roundtable? And he goes, well, as long as the postseason is on, there's a roundtable. So
Plus
now we
probably a roundtable wrap up to
doesn't
the
mean you root
season.
against the team.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
no,
all
no,
have
I
to
will
cheer
not.
for as
Okay.
many roundtable. We hope we still have 8 or 9.
Yeah, give me 2 more months of this.
I want the November roundtable.
100%.
left. Yeah, November roundtable.
Let's
My
go.
goodness gracious.
I'll still be drunk at that one, just so you know, at the November roundtable.
just going to be carrying this right into spring training. All right, Padres Giants this weekend. Obviously, 6 games that are going to be really critical, not for the Giants anymore, but for the Padres. I bet they'd love to be spoilers. Bob Melvin's that's the last thing that he's got.
That's
and
it.
We'll have a lot to talk about those series when we come back next week.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if they have the roster to be able to do it, but I think all these teams that are kind of out of it would like to go out with some wins and
No
be spoilers.
question.
I think the
No
crazy
question.
thing is, I was doing the math. Blake Snell is likely going to miss the Padres again, and maybe in both series. They will never face him this
Boy,
year.
what a darn shame.
Fine by me.
Jeez.
Miss Scooble in the Detroit
is too
series.
bad.
I was
Skeens in the Pittsburgh series.
I was factoring it out. If we get to the division series against the Phillies, we'll miss both Wheeler and Nola.
Who are you going to miss in the White Sox
It's been working
series?
out that way, so why not?
That's it for us, for Annie, for Woods, for Craig and Chris. I'm Ben Higgins. Thanks for joining us on the Roundtable Pizza. Roundtable, it's pizza royalty.
Ben and Woods.